So, hello everyone, and greetings of the day from wherever you are joining us. We have Sue Atkins who has joined us, and she comes with a very rich experience of 30 plus years. And she is an active speaker with multiple conferences and enthusiast trainer, chairperson for the Scottish testing group, and also member of program community of Eurostar. So that's a brief description, so you can add more about yourself, and we would love to hear about it. Warm welcome to you, and stage is yours.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you very much for making me the last speaker of the day. I will say that Nikita earlier on did such a brilliant job, and a good number of her points are replicated in my talk. So um, I feel a little bit like Nikita has stolen my thunder, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. Okay, so I shall share my screen and see what that looks like to make sure everyone can see my screen. So,
Yes, we
yeah,
do see.
yes, brilliant. Let me just adjust the things that I have sitting on my screen, which never want to go the way you want them to go. No. Okay, let's bring that one down a bit. I'm coming to you from a hotel room in the rather damp and not cold city of Oslo today. So if anything occurs that's not quite right, it's probably down to hotel Wi-Fi and things like that. So um, okay, let's get started and see how we go. Right, let me just make sure that all my equipment works. So, and there we go. Yes, right. So the talk today is what a wondrous creature is a tester. Um, and in this presentation, basically, I wanted to look at the qualities that a tester possesses. So yes, let me drop forward and see. There we go. You can see. So as the slide says, we've all seen the headlines, and obviously, I know having joined the conference on a few occasions over the last few days, dipping in and out, that these headlines have been discussed. That we see the headlines talking about the idea that testing is dead. We don't need testers. Automation, AI does it better, faster, cheaper. The thing is, it's not us saying that thing. It's people outside of the testing industry, if you like, that are thinking these things. As Nikita pointed out, we know as testers that we're not going to be replaced because we have a certain set of skills, aptitudes, qualities that once we have uncovered uh, how these tools are working, and AI at the end of the day is a tool. I have certainly been in the industry long enough to have seen the cycles. I can remember when test automation first came in and saw the cycles then, test automation, this was back in the early 90s, and people were saying, test automation will take over, test automation will get rid of testers. Well, here, some 30 plus years later, yeah, we've still got testers. Yes, we have test automation. Yes, we have AI. So once we've understood how these tools will work and where we can work with them, the testers will still be there. We may have to change our names, but we'll still be there. So what I wanted to do with this presentation was basically celebrate all that a tester is, highlight and boost the valuable skills and attributes that they have so that they are better understood, both the testers and the skills and the qualities that the testers possess. And at the end of this, we'll be able to appreciate and see what a wondrous creature a tester is. So let's have a look. Now, I was looking at the tester attributes, and I've heard these attributes mentioned on quite a few occasions on the speeches that I've been listening to over the last couple of days. So I know that other people appreciate these attributes and qualities. I just wanted to put them together. And I picked out 7. Now, only because it gives me a nice number to work with and because I can talk about the 7 C's of testing. So, there are other qualities. And once we've done the presentation, maybe you can think of the ones that you would add into my list. Ones that didn't quite make the grade would be things like crafty. Testers can be crafty and sneaky, etc. But then I can add that into some of the other ones. So the 7 C's that I've come up with, basically, we start off with the fact that testers are communicative. So, and we need to recognize those communication skills, but also develop them in some ways. Testers are compassionate. And I know Nikita definitely mentioned the empathy element. So, the compassionate side. Testers are conscientious. We have a job to do and we do that job. Testers are definitely creative. So we'll break out some of the creative elements of the test activity. Curiosity has definitely been mentioned on a few occasions, not just by Nikita, but Baz and other people going through. We then also have the courageous element, how testers are courageous in what they do. And then finally, looking at testers being committed. So those are the 7 that I've picked out. As I say, there are definitely more, some of which are subsets, but if we have a look at these, and then, as I say, maybe put it in the chat if you've got something else that you think better represents the qualities of a tester. Okay, let's have a look at communication and communicative. Now, anyone that's been on one of my courses will have seen me draw this particular diagram, representing the development team, the business team, the testers. I often joke, that there is a book in mainly in the UK, US, but you may have seen it yourselves. It's a book about communication between men and women, and it talks about men are from Mars and women are from Venus. And I often joke as to, well, if men are from Mars and women are from Venus, then which planet are the development team from? Which planet are the business team from? Because they have distinct languages. The business team is often focused on things like return on investment and profit and loss, etc. The development team is focused on code and APIs and HTML and stacks and all sorts of other wonderful stuff. And the testers often act as interpreters between these particular groups, because quite often we've come from those groups. I originally started out as a developer quite a few years ago and moved across into testing. I've just finished working with a group of people who were basically medical professionals, doctors and nurses, and they've moved across into testing. So the testing community often acts as that interpreter in order to be able to understand what's actually happening. And testers, because of that role, we're the glue that helps bind the whole process together, bind the teams together, because we can act as interpreters for these particular groups. But the thing is, of course, that communication is not always easy. There are plenty of communication models that you can use to have a look and try to understand what communication is about. My favorite is one by a lady called Virginia Satir, as I always forget the second part. She's unfortunately, she's no longer with us, but she was basically a family therapist, and she created a lot of good stuff around communication and interaction with teams. So if you were to look at the ingredients of interaction model, then you start to see the interaction, for that particular model, you start to be able to represent it in what you're actually doing. And within her interaction model, she has various phases, that of intake, meaning, significance, acceptance, and response. And Sillard yesterday said that communication is mainly listening. And yeah, that's the intake part. But of course, the intake part can go awry, can go wrong. As an example, natural language is naturally ambiguous, especially when we start to look at across those different teams, across different countries, across different biases and social backgrounds. As an example of this one, I like this one best. We have the phrase, Mary had a little lamb. Now, if you are from the UK, your cultural reference is that is from a nursery rhyme. And in your head, you've probably got a picture of a little girl with a little lamb by the side of her. So Mary had a little lamb. But what does had actually mean? So we could say that Mary had a little lamb, maybe for her dinner, as in the context of she'd eaten it. But also we could have Mary owned a little lamb. Mary had a little lamb in the past, so she owned it. How about Mary tricked a little lamb? Because yes, Mary had, I had you. So tricked the little lamb. So that's one of the big issues we have with the communication element, is making sure that we have thoroughly understood what it is we're actually both saying and hearing. So the listening part and then understanding that. So as testers, we need to be super listeners and listen out for the issues with the communication. A couple of examples in terms of the super listener element. When we're listening to what people are saying, other people in the teams, etc., we want to try and understand what it is they are actually saying, and then we can raise questions. And I'll talk about questioning a little bit later on. But here's a couple of examples. Challenging the deletions in statements by uncovering the detail. So a statement like, testers need to improve their bug report writing skills. Well, great, but how? How do you want me to improve the bug writing skills? Statements like, we have to test everything, which of course every tester knows you can't do, or we will try, but to various different levels. So, okay, what's the worst thing that can happen if we don't do that? We've also got to challenge limitations by allowing discovery and exploration of alternatives. A statement like, we mustn't do it that way. Okay, what do you think would happen if we do it that way? And things like, it's just not possible. It's more than my job is worth to do that. Okay, what do we have to do in order to make it possible, in order to make it happen? But it's looking for what is being, not said, limitations or deletions. Okay, how about compassion? Compassion was, Nikita definitely mentioned it, and she mentioned the other element of compassion. Compassion has a number of different elements, but in the context of testing, then we'll be looking at more the empathy. Compassion is defined as a sympathetic consciousness of others' distress, together with a desire to alleviate it. So, putting yourself in someone else's shoes. By doing that, it helps us understand the issues they're having. And this, in turn, helps us build better products and systems. I'm sure we could all identify with people that have problems with the devices and products and everything else that we're creating. Interestingly enough, there is an idea, let's say, as it says at the top, we need to be the voice of the customer. We need to be the voice of the end user, whether that's internal or external. And yeah, we can recognize when people are having problems with the devices or products. Now, there is actually a book highlighted here from 1999, so quite a long while back. And this book is called The Inmates Are Running the Asylum and How to Restore the Sanity. The subtitle of that tells you everything. Why high-tech products drive us crazy and how to restore the sanity. Now, this is a book from over a quarter of a century ago, but I still think a lot of what the author, Alan Cooper, has said is very valuable. And within the book, he talks about two societal groups that are involved in creating products. He creates this imaginary group called Homo logicus, and then we've got the other group, which is Homo sapiens. And the idea is that Homo sapiens just want to get a job done. So they want simplicity. They'll accept less control as a trade-off. Whereas Homo logicus wants control and accepts complexity as a trade-off. I was a colleague of mine a couple of weeks back hired an electric car to take us both on a journey. And we spent pretty much the whole journey complaining about this particular car because in order to do anything that you wanted to do, like turn off the heated seats, things like that, you had to go down 5 different menus. You had to find the menuing system. Then you had to go down the different menus in order to find them and then turn them off. And the minute you parked up, all the stuff got reset. So we were then back in the car playing with the menus in order to try and think. So at the end of it, my colleague said there's no way he was ever going to buy one of these cars because it had been designed by Homo logicus, not by Homo sapien. Now, that book is from 25 plus years ago. And interestingly enough, another book, only 2 years old, this one was talking about what's happening with AI. But in that book, the author, Mustafa Suleyman, put forward, he called them Homo technologicus and Homo sapien. I did wonder whether he'd read the first book or whether he'd come up with these names himself, but he was describing exactly the same problem and highlighting that these products that we're creating are generally being created in the image of Homo technologicus or Homo logicus. And of course, as testers, back to the empathy, back to the compassion, we need to try and think of it in terms of the end user, the customer. So that led me to create a chart which is entirely based on guess and gut feel. But I was thinking that if we looked at the humans across the planet, then that's probably Homo logicus. So why should our products be built for them, by them, for them, when this is the rest of us? And we need to be able to, as testers, raise those points and raise the voice of good old Homo sapien. So let's have a look at another quality, that of conscientiousness. Not easy to say. But to be conscientious. Now, the dictionary definition of conscientious is serious about your work and putting a lot of effort into doing it in a careful way. So, as testers, we are diligent. We create processes to follow. We use stepwise techniques. We know the bugs are in there and we'll build our plans accordingly and follow those plans. And organizations should recognize the value we bring to the organization because of that conscientious, diligent activity. The fact, as I say, I'm also a tutor for various training courses, certification courses. All of this um, feeds into the recognizing that testers mean business. We're serious and we know our stuff. We can have fun too. But yes, ideally, we want to be a bit more like Greg, be more Greg. As Greg, it says there, Greg Smith is a conscientious and dedicated worker who will be an asset to your company. So yes, we would like all of that, every company, every organization we join, to recognize our qualities as a tester and say that about us. That brings me on to the big one, really. There's a couple of big ones in these qualities. That of the creativity, creative. Testers are definitely creative. Testers are some of the most creative people I know. In our personal lives, we are musicians, painters, knitters. In fact, whilst tuning into some of the other sessions, I was sitting there knitting away. So, yeah, I have my knitting tucked off to the side if anyone else is a knitter as well. And yeah, you won't be surprised to know that it's, I don't know if I can show you. Yeah, it's got some bright colours in it. So, but there was an interesting element. Um, the lovely Isabel Evans was doing some research on usability of test tools. And as a side effect of some of this research, she sent out questionnaires to testers. And from this research, she found out that the typical image of a tester, firstly, didn't really exist, but secondly, there were other patterns that came out of it. This image that we might, at the end of the day, disappear into our basement and play computer games. Yes, we might do that, but we're more likely to disappear off and play music or knit or weave or do something else creative. And again, maybe in the comments you can put what your creative pastime is. But when because of this group that we are, we're not typically that techie orientated. We almost want to leave the technical stuff at home or technical stuff at work and then start doing the fun stuff, if you like. Not saying that testing isn't fun. But how does this creativity help us when it comes to testing? Well, of course, we're very creative in our bug hunting. We build complex tests to uncover deficiencies in the software and the systems. We pull that in with creative thinking. Testers are really great at making connections and mapping things, so-called creative leaps, things that AI might not see, things that other people might not see. This is another reason why as testers, we're sort of valued on the team because we can be seeing stuff differently. As an illustration, in this particular picture, what do you see? Do you see a box of folded towels? Or do you see a strange face looking out at you? This one, I was cooking some pancakes, and having created a pancake, I then saw this poor pancake saying basically, "Don't eat me, please don't eat me." I did actually eat it, but it looked a bit pitiful on the plate.
Yeah, true.
And then this one, which I will leave your own imagination to think what the hell is going on with that particular picture. The creative leap. Now, added into that creative thinking and creative leap, we've got the other side of it, imagination. Testers are great at imagination. And if you think about it, when we're trying to work out where we think the bugs are, that's imagination. We're imagining, we're hypothesizing where we think the problems might be, where the bugs might be, where the issues could come in. We're pulling in that empathy that we talked about a little earlier, all of that to build this picture of what might be occurring. So for me, imagination, that's the ideas factory in terms of our creative elements. Another aspect that testers are really good at, and this one got me thinking that I haven't found other industry sectors that use heuristics as much as we do. Added into that, haikus. So, as testers, we can pack an awful lot of information into small packets. As an idea, this is one of my favorite haikus. I don't think it necessarily follows the rules of haiku, but for me, again, packed into that short phrase is all sorts of aspects around, cultural aspects. In the UK, we either bury or burn our dead, and usually we want it. It's a fairly sad occasion, and quite often because the UK is very wet, it's raining. So for me, that little haiku conveys the fact that the only person not getting wet at the funeral is the person who's gone. And almost the sadness and greyness of everything, just from a simple phrase. And then other heuristics that we have. This is from a great little book called 50 Quick Ideas to Improve Your Tests. And within that, it's jam-packed with heuristics that we can use. Whether that's a simple phrase or, in this one, a list of things that we can look at. So all of this takes that creative thought pattern and uses it to uncover where we think the defects might be. That tips us quite nicely into the other one, curiosity. Testers are definitely curious. We are curious about all sorts of things. So how could we not include curiosity? But that said, there is a societal aspect here because you probably, again, culturally, I don't know if different cultures have the same similar sayings, but curiosity killed the cat. So that to me is a very deep-seated heuristic. It's basically told to people that are being too nosy about something, asking too many questions. Because testers are good at asking questions, but is that always welcome? Sometimes they get question overload. We're asking too many questions. So asking those questions and curiosity, it's seen as engaging in a child, but annoying in adults. And as testers, we need to change that attitude, make sure that we are fully aware of what it is we're doing. So, kids, it's great. Why is the sky blue? Well, yes. But for adults, we're paid to ask questions. We're paid to think. But sometimes that cultural aspect can come into play. So tipping into the questioning, yes, we need to be continually thinking about what questions we need to ask. What don't we know? And there's a fantastic little thing that we can use to keep thinking around those processes. A guy called Donald Rumsfeld, who was the former US Secretary of Defense, he actually put it very well. And within that, he had several points. He actually had three, which was the known knowns, so things we know with certainty, such as the sun will come up tomorrow. We have the known unknowns, so things that we are aware of, but we don't have the answer to. And then we have the unknown unknowns, things that we don't know, we don't know. And from Mr. Rumsfeld, that is the category that will bite us in the backside. So as a tester, we need to be thinking about, what am I missing here? Being curious around, what is it I'm missing? Now, there is actually a fourth category that Mr. Rumsfeld didn't pick out, but of course we can spot it, and that is the unknown knowns. So things that people know but choose to ignore or forget to tell us. So that's a bonus category that we can add into our list. And all of those, that little list becomes, if you like, a heuristic. We've also got the curious element in terms of lifelong learning. That lifelong learning means maintaining your curiosity and aiming to be smarter today than you were yesterday. And of course, what we need to do there is hypothesizing, imagination, future gazing. Where do we think things are going? And what do I need to know about next? And add that into what it is we're trying to do. So, yeah, basically, as testers, we are curious and we need to stay curious in all the contexts. Courageous, yes. Testers are definitely courageous because, as I've been saying, testers see stuff. And testers, it takes a lot of courage to stand up, say things, and ask those questions. So, to challenge that group think where everybody else thinks it's fine, but we're just going to say, well, actually, have you thought about this? Because, I think the tester mindset is that of possibly optimistic pessimism. We want things to work wonderfully, but we know deep down there's probably going to be a problem. So let's just raise it. Let's just challenge it. So we need to be courageous in that. There was a great book in the 1970s, which I take as a bit of a mantra. You don't need to buy the book because the book title, which is Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, the book title tells you everything. So, yeah, feel the fear, do it anyway, and see what comes of it. Raise the point. Which brings us to the committed. Yes. Obviously, in the issue of balance, I had a cat picture earlier on, so now I've got the dog picture. But in my head, yeah, dogs are very much the committed, especially if you think of things like police dogs and working dogs. They're committed, they're tenacious, they will stick with it, especially if you've got a stick. So, as testers, we need to be more dog. If we find something that we think is wrong, we shouldn't let it drop. We shouldn't be put off with, oh, that's going to get sorted out, or no, that's not an issue. Yeah, it's an issue to us. We're representing Homo sapien, so yeah, it's an issue. But we're also committed to the work we do, we're committed to our teammates, and ultimately committed to creating a better product stroke solution. So those are my 7 C's, as I say. I know there are more, and they obviously all overlap and intertwine, but together they are what I think makes up this wonderful creature that we call a tester. So all these attributes make a colourful, wondrous creature that is a tester. And developing those attributes, shouting about those attributes, making other people recognize whatever we're called. I know we're trying to find an identity. Are we a tester? Are we a quality engineer? Whatever it is, it doesn't matter what our title is. These are the attributes that create this wonderful creature that is a tester. So I needed a creature to represent that. And in my head, this is what we are, this bright, multicolored, wonderful unicorn. Not to say that we're a mythical beast or difficult to find, um, or that we have magical powers, because, yeah, we can't do absolutely everything. But if we value how beautiful we are and shine, then let's celebrate those skills and aptitudes. And going forward, especially with the idea of AI and all the other elements, I think it really is the tester time to shine. Our mindset will, hopefully create really good products and experiences. So thank you very much. Um, that was my point. And if anyone has any particular questions, and also just another little aside, I wanted to say that not all dragons are bad. Because I know there have been several different presentations and things talking about dragons being the negative side, taming your dragons and the Dragons Out book, etc. I want to be there for dragon rights. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sue. We have a question from Charles. I would request Charles to unmute and ask directly to you, if that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Charles.
Yeah, hi. So, as we all know, AI is becoming quite popular in recording meetings, which is certainly useful to a certain degree. I'm a bit worried that it would affect, psychologically, it would affect the participants, that they would either perform for AI, because everything is recorded, so you want to look good, or suppress questions, because you might be embarrassed to ask the question. In my work, I very much advocate communication and asking questions. I hold three amigos meetings to get the best requirements out so that we all understand the same requirements. Testers, developers, product owners. Even then, people are quiet because we think that the product owners are the experts, right?
Yeah.
They spend so much time on the requirements. Why should we be asking any questions? So I think there could be a problem with AI recording our meetings because of this. What would you say to this?
Well, yeah, I totally agree. It's not my preference. I prefer not to have AI record the meetings. Yeah, I prefer to do it in the group and build the communication within the group so that um, the group or the team that I'm working with understand that it's not the individual that we're questioning, it's the requirements or the product or the defects, etc. So it's reframing the thing. I'm always interested as to why we have these AI note takers. Now, I know they're being widely used, but we don't really need them, in my experience. So my recommendation would be to try to do without them in that way, and just get back to being the human conversation, and say coaching the team so as they understand that any question is valid. You're not questioning the product owner, you're questioning the requirements or the user story or whatever it is in order to get clarity.
Yep.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you, Charles,
Thank
for
you.
asking that question. Any other questions that we have? Okay, so we don't have any further questions, Sue. It was amazing session. I think we all loved it.